Gotti was in town for a family function, family event, and he was in his Rolls Royce truck, and they pulled up on the side of him. And, they let out about 60 rounds into his Rolls Royce truck. Well, he was bulletproof.
Yo Gotti's bulletproof Rolls Royce just got lit up with 60 rounds, and the streets are talking about who pulled them triggers. We got exclusive details on how PRE members slid on the CMG boss in broad daylight, trying to get back for young Dolph. This ain't no regular drive-by. This was a full assassination attempt that went all the way wrong, and the footage of the aftermath is spreading like wildfire on every block in Memphis. What I'm about to show you reveals the real reason why this war between Paper Route Empire and CMG turned into a bloodbath that's still claiming lives today. Yo Gotti was supposed to be untouchable in Memphis, the king of the city, CMG running everything from Beale Street to the interstate. But here's what really went down. PRE wasn't backing down from nobody, not even the so-called king. The 60-round spray on Gotti's whip didn't just miss its target, it lit a fuse that exploded into one of hip-hop's deadliest feuds. To understand how we got to Dolph's people hunting Gotti through Memphis streets like he was just another op, we gotta rewind this whole story to where the bad blood really started. Let's go back to 2014 when Memphis had two rising stars who should have been brothers but ended up as sworn enemies. Young Dolph was that independent king, building Paper Route Empire from the ground up, while Yo Gotti had CMG as his empire with major label backing. The streets were big enough for both, but egos and business got in the way. According to Hernandez Govan, who just beat his murder case in the Dolph trial, the whole beef wasn't even about what people think. The story about it being about a girl or whatever the case may be, I heard that also, but that's absolutely not true. It was just a potential business deal gone bad from what I understand. But here's where the real truth comes out. The foundation of this whole war actually traces back to some old-school Memphis politics involving Gucci Mane and Yo Gotti. According to street sources, Gotti and Gucci had serious issues over a woman named Keishia Kawer, who later became Gucci's wife. The whole problem with Gotti and Gucci stems from a woman, explained one Memphis insider. Gotti didn't rape Gucci's woman. Gotti got with the woman who wanted to get with him freely and voluntarily. Simple as that. She was getting around. Keishia Kawer was not Gucci Mane's first nothing. Back then, Gotti wanted Dolph on his CMG roster bad. We talking about serious money, serious opportunities. But Dolph was tight with Gucci Mane, and with Gucci and Gotti having their own personal drama, loyalty lines were drawn in the sand. When you in the streets, loyalty matters more than money sometimes. Dolph picked his side, and that decision changed everything. I think Dolph was close friends with Gucci Mane at the time. Gucci and Gotti's relationship kind of deteriorated over the years, and I think that this all played a factor in Dolph deciding not to sign, giving his reasons for not wanting to sign CMG, Govan explained during his interview. Memphis is small, ain't like LA where you can avoid somebody for years. When you got two crews operating in the same city, territory matters. Paper Route Empire was growing, CMG was established, and the tension was building like a pressure cooker ready to explode. Every club, every studio, every block became potential conflict zones. Now, to really understand this, you gotta know how these street politics work. It wasn't just Gotti and Dolph going at it. You had whole crews, families, and millions of dollars at stake. According to multiple sources, including Govan's recent interviews, both sides were actively trying to eliminate the other. The first major escalation happened when young Dolph started getting really disrespectful in his music. He wasn't just declining business deals, he was talking about smashing somebody's baby mama, questioning Gotti's street credibility, and basically treating CMG like they were food on these Memphis streets. I don't think you can go find one song where you hear Yo Gotti dissing Dolph, Govan pointed out during his Vlad TV interview. It was more so Dolph every time. Every other song he dropped, he was mentioning Gotti and Jook and sometimes his family, and so I think that kinda lit the fire to it, escalated it. But according to court testimony and multiple sources, this wasn't just rap beef. Real attempts were being made on both sides. The Sprinter van shooting that everybody knows about was just the tip of the iceberg. According to discovery evidence and testimony, there were multiple failed attempts on Dolph's life, but he kept surviving and getting more reckless. Here's where it gets crazy. A well-known, respected NBA player from Memphis actually tried to mediate this whole situation. According to Govan's testimony, this player reached out to a respected club promoter and asked him to reach out to both parties to try to dead the beef. Well, he reached out to Gotti, and Gotti was all for it. He was open to having a conversation with Dolph, possibly meeting up to put an end to it. When this particular club promoter reached out to Dolph, Dolph said no, hung up the phone in his face and blocked him. He ain't want no parts of squashing it, and I'm just being honest. All of this could have been avoided if egos wasn't in the way. That rejection was a turning point. When you got millionaire rappers refusing to make peace and one side keeps escalating through music and street moves, something's gotta give. Things escalated even more when Big Jook, Gotti's older brother and the real muscle behind CMG, got directly involved. Jook wasn't no rapper. He was a street dude who handled business the old school way. When family gets threatened, you handle it permanently. The situation reached a boiling point when Key Glock allegedly spit on Big Jook at Memphis International Airport. Jook and Glock ended up on the same plane one day leaving Memphis International Airport, and they had an altercation and Glock ended up spitting on Jook, Govan revealed. That kinda amplified things and now it kinda like reignited. But even before that airport incident, Jook was showing his feelings publicly. There's video of him at Memphis International Airport seeing young Dolph's picture on the wall and saying, "Whoever painted this, don't paint no sucker beside two real ones. Two real ones with a sucker in the middle, man. Y'all don't do that, man. Don't talk about legacy." By 2021, both sides were actively hunting each other. Court documents and testimony revealed there was a $100,000 bounty on young Dolph's head. But what most people don't know is that PRE was hunting too, and they got closer than anybody realized. Here's the exclusive details on what really happened when PRE members slid on Yo Gotti. According to Hernandez Govan's testimony and discovery evidence from the murder trial, this incident took place about a month before young Dolph got killed at Makita's Cookies.
All around Makita's Cookies, where Dolph was shot down, are businesses with security video cameras. Surveillance video would be important to show exactly what happened here, and one camera should have caught it all.
Gotti was in town for a family event, and he was in his Rolls-Royce truck when somebody pulled up on the side of him, and they let out about 60 rounds into his Rolls-Royce truck, but he was bulletproof, Govan explained during his recent interview. Think about that for a second, 60 rounds. This wasn't no warning shots or scare tactics. This was a full military-style assassination attempt in broad daylight on Memphis streets.
The latest example of senseless crime in Memphis has many asking, when will it stop?
The shooters pulled up professional, let them choppers sing, and tried to end Yo Gotti's whole career permanently. According to the street sources and testimony, this wasn't random. The intelligence behind this hit was solid. Dolph had an aunt or a cousin or something over there that lived by his dad, and Dolph had been bragging on the drill that he sent some people to get up with Gotti, according to what Big Jook was told after the shooting. The shooters knew Gotti's movements, his vehicle, his routine. They set up an ambush that would have worked on anybody else. But Gotti's paranoia saved his life. That Rolls-Royce was bulletproof specifically because he knew this war was coming. While regular folks riding in regular cars, Gotti was moving like he was in Afghanistan, and it's the only reason he survived. But here's where it gets wild. Gotti's survival instincts were on point, but his ego almost got him killed. According to multiple sources, he was still moving around Memphis like he owned the city, still going to family functions, still being visible. There's no way that I would have been moving like that considering what happened prior to that, and he knew what happened prior to that, Govan said about the whole situation. The shooting was so intense that it should have made national news. 60 rounds from automatic weapons in broad daylight in Memphis should have had FBI, ATF, and every news station in America covering it, but Gotti kept it quiet. He ain't going to do no social media, or he ain't report the crime, and so it kind of went under the radar, Govan said. But they knew about it with the detectives and stuff. They knew because it's in our discovery. This is important because discovery evidence means it's documented, verified, and part of an official investigation. This ain't street rumors or social media lies. This is court-documented evidence that PRE members came within inches of taking out the CMG boss. The fact that law enforcement knew about it but kept it quiet shows how deep this war was. Police were watching both sides, documenting the violence, but couldn't prevent it from escalating. The aftermath of this shooting changed everything. While the public never knew about it, the streets were buzzing. Word spread through Memphis that PRE had made their move and missed. In street politics, when you shoot at the king and miss, you better not miss again. But here's what really happened behind the scenes that nobody talks about. According to Govan's detailed testimony about the meetings at his house, Big Jook was already deep into planning retaliation before this shooting even happened. On this particular night, when we were having the music meeting, it was a knock at the door, and I went to the door and it was Cornelius Smith, and I was under the impression that he just wanted some X pills or whatever like he normally did. So I told him to come back later. I was trying to get a deal signed for Straight Drop, and he was like, "No, it's important." So I stepped outside, and that's when he mentioned to me, he was like, man, they ain't trying to do nothing about Dolph trying to kill Gotti. This conversation happened at Govin's house while Big Jook was there for a music meeting with Straight Drop about getting him signed to CMG. But when Cornelius Smith brought up the Gotti shooting, everything changed. Here's where the story gets even more detailed. According to Govan, Jook was always cautious about phones during these conversations. Jook was like, hold up, man, we ain't doing no talking around these phones. Take these phones outside. He tell Govan, take the phones outside. According to Cornelius Smith's testimony, this shows that Jook knew these conversations were dangerous and could be recorded. He was moving like someone who understood RICO cases and federal investigations, but he was also ready to handle business. When Cornelius Smith and Bobby Carter approached Big Jook as he was leaving Govan's house and asked what was going to be done about Dolph trying to kill his brother, Jook's reaction confirmed everything. To my surprise, Jook didn't say, "You don't know what you're talking about," Govan revealed. Jook knew what he was talking about. Matter of fact, Jook asked him how did he know that. And he said that Dolph had an aunt or a cousin or something over there that lived by his dad, and Dolph had been bragging on the drill that he sent some people to get up with Gotti. This confirmed not only that the shooting really happened, but that Dolph was personally involved in ordering it. The $100,000 bounty that was later put on young Dolph's head wasn't just about the ongoing beef. It was direct payback for this assassination attempt. The investigation into this shooting was kept quiet, but law enforcement was building a case. According to Govan, who had access to all the discovery evidence, police knew about the attempt but couldn't prove who ordered it at the time. But on the streets, the consequences were immediate. PRE members knew they had declared war on CMG and missed their biggest target. They had to stay ready for the get-back that was definitely coming. Meanwhile, Yo Gotti was moving different. He upgraded his security, changed his patterns, and started moving like he was under constant threat, which he was. But he also did something that street dudes rarely do. He put it in his music without saying too much. Instead of taking this attempt on his life to social media or the police, Yo Gotti did what real street dudes do. He addressed it in bars. On the track, Too Official, with Big 30, Gotti rapped about the incident. "Unquote shot at me and missed. I hope the Lord bless them." That line wasn't just bragging. It was a direct response to the 60-round assassination attempt. Gotti was letting the streets know that not only did he survive, but he was praying for his enemies because he knew what was coming next. So that's why Gotti came out with that song called Bulletproof, Gavon explained during his interview. A lot of those little lines mean something, you know, but I can't say that's the reason why, but you know, you from the streets, you know what's up. This was Gotti's way of acknowledging the attempt without giving police evidence to use against anybody. He confirmed it happened while maintaining plausible deniability. But for those in the know, it was a clear message. PRE tried to take the king and failed. The fact that he called the song Bulletproof and referenced the shooting shows how close he came to death. That Rolls-Royce armor was literally the difference between life and death for the CMG boss. But it was also a flex, letting everyone know that he was prepared for this level of warfare. According to street analysts who break down these lyrics, Gotti's response was calculated. He didn't name names, didn't give specifics, but confirmed he survived an attempt and was ready for whatever came next. The line about hoping the Lord blesses his enemies wasn't mercy. It was confidence that divine intervention wouldn't save them from what was coming. Here's what most people don't understand about why this information is coming out now. Hernandez Govan beat his murder case and is legally free to discuss anything that was in his discovery evidence. But more importantly, his revelations are creating new problems for people who thought they were safe. How can that be ratting when it's in my discovery? Govan explained. They charged me with lining up the assassination, so how is it ratting if it's in my discovery? It's in the public domain. So if I'm telling y'all what it is, these were the things that they were trying to say that I knew about and was aware of. But here's the real issue. According to Govan, Big Jook was about to be federally indicted before he got killed in Dallas. They were definitely actively trying to charge Big Jook when he was killed. Yes, they were. They just wanted it on a higher scale, federal. This means the feds were building a RICO case against CMG leadership. The 60-round shooting on Gotti's Rolls-Royce gives them a clear motive for the young Dolph murder. It establishes a pattern of attempted murders, retaliation, and organized criminal activity. When asked if the feds are still working on charging other people related to this case, Govan said, "There's nobody left to charge. Who they going to charge?" But that was before he started revealing these details about Gotti being shot at. Now that there's documented evidence of PRE members attempting to assassinate Yo Gotti, and testimony that this led directly to the bounty on Dolph's head, the federal investigation could easily expand to include Gotti himself. Here's the real talk about Yo Gotti's situation in Memphis today. The war didn't end when young Dolph died. If anything, it got worse. PRE members are still out there, still loyal to Dolph's memory, and still willing to slide for their fallen leader. According to multiple street sources and the recent interviews, the attempt on Gotti's life proved that these dudes are willing to do whatever it takes. 60 rounds into a Rolls Royce in broad daylight shows they ain't scared of consequences, police, or retaliation. "There's no way that I would have been moving like that," Govan said about Dolph returning to Memphis after the attempt on Gotti. But the same applies to Gotti now. These Memphis streets are still hot and PRE loyalists are still hunting. Big Jook is dead now, killed in Dallas, while trying to handle some of this same business. That means Gotti lost his main muscle, his brother, and his street enforcer. He's more vulnerable now than he's ever been, and the recent revelations about the 60-round shooting attempt are putting even more heat on him. The streets don't forget, and Paper Route Empire's loyalty runs deeper than business. These are people who loved young Dolph like family, who saw him as more than just a rapper. His death created martyrs, not peace. Every PRE member who loved Dolph sees Yo Gotti as the reason their leader is gone. Memphis politics don't change because somebody dies. The cycle of retaliation continues, and with Govan now publicly revealing these details, more people know about the failed assassination attempt. This creates more motivation for street justice, more reasons for PRE members to finish what they started. The fact that they came so close the first time means they learned from their mistakes. Next time, they might not rely on regular bullets against bulletproof glass. They might use different tactics, different weapons, or different approaches that Gotti can't prepare for. This 60-round assassination attempt on Yo Gotti reveals the real level of violence in this Memphis war. We ain't talking about social media beef or diss songs. This was military-level execution that came within inches of changing hip-hop history forever. The leaked details about this shooting prove that the young Dolph and Yo Gotti beef was deeper and more dangerous than anybody knew. PRE members were willing to risk everything to get back for their leader, and they almost succeeded. Only bulletproof glass and divine intervention saved Gotti's life that day. Today, Yo Gotti remains a target in his own city. The bulletproof Rolls Royce saved him once, but luck runs out. Memphis streets don't forget. PRE loyalty to young Dolph's memory is eternal, and the federal investigation is still ongoing. The exclusive footage and testimony we've covered shows that this wasn't just rap beef. This was an active war zone where multi-millionaire rappers were hunting each other with military weapons. The fact that law enforcement documented this attempt but kept it quiet shows how deep the violence really went. Based on everything we know from court documents, testimony, and street sources, the 60-round shooting was just the beginning of a story that's still being written in blood on Memphis streets. Big Jook paid the ultimate price for his role in this war, but the cycle of retaliation continues. For real, this situation proves that no amount of money, fame, or success can protect you when street politics go too far. Yo Gotti survived 60 rounds that day, but the war that created those shots is still raging. PRE members are still out there, still loyal, and still willing to slide for young Dolph's memory. The next time they make a move, they might not miss. And with federal investigations, ongoing street beef, and public revelations putting more heat on the situation, Yo Gotti's Memphis homecoming could be his last trip to the city that made him a king but might crown him with a casket.